Hello, this is Stephen Balch, your instructor for Computer Applications Online at Ozarka College. In this video, what I'm going to do is take you through the first half of Excel Module 1. Alright, in this first video, what I'm going to do is take you through the process of opening up a new blank workbook in Excel and entering the column titles and row titles and the numerical data for the worksheet. And we're also going to enter the functions and formulas that we need to get the totals and so forth. And then in the second video, I will continue with the worksheet and show you how to format it, and then also how to create the pie chart and add that as the second worksheet in the workbook. Okay, so if you haven't already read through the module, you'll need to do that first to kind of learn a little bit more about the terminology in Excel. For example, if you don't already know what a workbook is, or a worksheet, or a chart, or a cell, or a range, you'll need to kind of read through that. I'm not going to go over that in this video. That's something that you'll just kind of read through and let me know if you have questions about it. Okay? So what we're going to do is, if you'll look there on page EX1-2 in your book, it shows you what the finished worksheet and chart should look like when we get done. Alright? And of course, both of these are going to be in the same workbook. When we talk about a workbook, that's the complete file that we save in Microsoft Excel. And then each workbook file can contain multiple worksheets. So each one of those items that you see there on page 1-2 is a separate worksheet within the same workbook. Okay? Alright. So, like I said, if you don't already know what Excel is, what a spreadsheet program is, you'll need to kind of read through that. Just in general, a spreadsheet program like Excel allows us to keep track of numerical and financial information like inventory and sales and payroll and expenses and income. Typical things that a business or even an individual would need to keep track of. Also, it allows us to make calculations based on the data in the worksheet. In other words, do things like enter formulas and functions to create calculated values. It also allows us to create charts and graphs to graphically represent the data, important data in the worksheet. Alright, so first thing we need to do is go ahead and open up a blank workbook in Microsoft Excel, and it shows you how to do that there on the bottom of page 1-5 and continues on to page 1-6 in your book. So go ahead and go through those steps to open up a new blank workbook. Alright, and you'll notice the workbook, or in this case the worksheet, which is one sheet within the workbook, is divided into columns and rows, which are separated by these vertical and horizontal lines called grid lines. And again, all those terms are in your book. A lot of them are on page 1-7 in your book. So if you're not familiar with those terms, you'll need to kind of read through those, because it will refer to those terms in the instructions. You'll need to know what those things mean. Okay? Alright. So, after we've opened up a new blank workbook and worksheet, our next step is on the top of page 1-12. We need to make sure that the print, or actually not print, make sure that the normal view is selected down here on the status bar. Alright, and then what we need to do is on page 1-13, step 1, we need to make sure that cell A1 is the active cell. The active cell is the cell that has the border around it. That's the cell that we can actually enter data into at this time. Alright, and then what we're going to do is type in what's shown there as the title of the worksheet in cell A1. It shows you what to type in there on step 2 on the top of page EX1-14 in your book. So you're going to type that in to cell A1. And I'm going to zoom in on my, well, I'll have to wait until I get done here. Bring, hold, real estate, budget. Okay. Once you get that typed in, you're going to click the enter button up on the formula bar, which is this little button that looks like a little check mark. So you're going to click on the enter button. What that does is that takes you out of edit mode, which is what we were in when we were typing in the title, and basically completes the entry in that cell and allows you to move to another cell. And so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit easier, and so I can see it a little bit better, I'm going to zoom in by using the zoom box here. I'm going to zoom in on my worksheet a little bit. Alright. Then what we're going to do, once we've got the title typed into cell A1, we're going to click on cell A2 to make it the active cell. We're going to type in what's shown there on step 4 on the bottom of page 1-14. So we're going to type in monthly expenses as the subtitle. Alright. And then we're going to click on the enter button to complete that entry. And then we're going to click on cell A3. We're going to type in the first of several column titles. So we're going to type in income into cell A3. Now, on top of page 1-16 in your book, it says you can use the right arrow key to move from one column to the next in your worksheet. And you can do that, but you can also use the tab key. I kind of like to use the tab key to move from one column to the next. So you can use either method you want to, but basically you need to move to cell B3, and it has us type in the first month of the year, in this case January, so we're going to type in January into cell B3, and then you're going to click the enter button to complete that entry. Now, you could, if you wanted to, type in each one of the months of the year in the adjacent cells to the right in row 3, but I'm going to show you a little shortcut. What you can do, instead of, when you have a series, like a series of months that you want to type into a worksheet, you can use a special tool in Excel called the fill handle, okay, which is this little square on the bottom right hand corner of the border around the active cell. Alright, so make sure that the cell B3 is the active cell that has the border around it, and then point to that fill handle where the mouse pointer changes to a crosshair, and then you're going to basically look in the picture there on page 1-16 in your book, and you'll notice the months go all the way through column M. Alright, so I'm going to basically drag that fill handle by holding down the left mouse button while I'm on the fill handle and dragging all the way across through column M, and then I'm going to release the mouse button. And what it's going to do is it's going to fill in all the other months of the year after January. So February will be placed in cell C3, March in cell D3, all the way to December in cell M3. Okay? Again, if you feel more comfortable typing in each one of those instead of using the fill handle, feel free to do that. Using the fill handle makes it just a lot faster. Alright, then you're going to click on cell N3 and type in total. Alright, then you're going to click on cell A8. And we're going to type in the column titles for the expenses portion of the worksheet. So we're going to type in expenses in cell A8. We're going to press tab and then type in January. Alright, and then you're going to click the enter button up here on the formula bar. And then just like we did for the for row 3 to enter all of the months through column M, we're going to do the same thing down here in row 8. So we're going to, after we get January typed into cell B8, and we finish that entry by clicking the enter button, we're going to click or point to the fill handle, hold down the left mouse button, and drag through column M, and then release the mouse button. Okay? If you don't get it the first time, just keep trying it, or like I said, if you would rather just type in each one separately, that's perfectly okay as well. Alright? Then you're going to click on cell N8 and type in total, because we're going to get all the row totals there for each one of our types of income and expenses. Alright. Once you get total typed in there, just click on the enter button to finalize that entry. And now we're ready on page 1-17 to enter the row titles. Alright, so we've got all the column titles entered. Now we need to enter the row titles. Alright, so the first row title is going to go into cell A4. So you're going to click on cell A4 to make it active. And you're going to type in what's shown there on step 1 on the top of page 1-17, which is commission. Okay? And by the way, don't worry if the text in a cell extends beyond the right grid line of the cell. In other words, the width of the column. We're going to fix that later on by adjusting the widths of the columns. So don't worry about that. Okay? And you may find that some of the text is not visible in the cell. Again, don't worry about that. As long as you type it in the cell, it will be there. If you're worried about it, you can click on a particular cell that you're worried about and look up here on the formula bar. As long as all the text is on the formula bar that should be in that cell, then you're fine. Alright, like I said, we'll worry about showing those hidden the hidden text in the cells later on by extending the size of the columns. Alright, so once you get commission typed into cell A4, to move down in your worksheet, you can press the enter key. You can also use the down arrow key, whichever method you prefer to use. But basically, you're going to move down to cell A5 and type in interest. And then you're going to go down to cell A6 and type in total. Because in addition to getting the row totals, we also want to get the column totals. Alright? Once you get total typed into cell A6, you're going to move down to cell A9. And you're going to type in what's shown there on step 2 on the bottom of page 1-17. Alright? So you're going to type rent into cell A9. And then utilities into cell A10. And then advertising into cell A11, and then website into cell A12, and then printing into cell A13, and then office supplies into cell A14, and then gas into cell A15, and then miscellaneous into cell A16, and then total into cell A17. Then you're going to skip a row. You're not going to type anything into row 18. You're going to move down to cell A19 and type in net. Because what we want to do, once we get the expense totals and the once we get the expense totals and the income totals, we're going to get the net difference at the end on that row 19. And so once you're done with that, just click the enter button up here. Now I noticed a mistake on cell A2 that I need to correct. If you made this mistake as well, you'll need to fix it as well. I accidentally put, instead of monthly estimates, I put monthly expenses. So you need to actually put monthly estimates in cell A2. Alright, so to correct that, just go to the cell, go to that cell A2, and then go up to your formula bar and edit the contents of that cell. Alright, and then just click enter to finalize that. And when you notice a mistake in one of the cells in your worksheet, like I did, just go in and edit it up here on the formula bar. Just click on the cell that you want to edit and then go up to the formula bar and make your change. Alright, so we've got that done. We've got all of our titles typed into our worksheet. And our next step, on page 1-18, it gives us all the numerical data for our worksheet. Alright, and so you can look at table 1-1 and it shows us all the numerical data. Now, one important thing to remember when entering numbers into a worksheet is you don't need to enter the dollar signs. You also don't need to enter the commas. Alright, and so you're just going to basically insert the digits of the number. Alright, we will, later on, we'll format the numbers as currency, or basically with the accounting number format and so forth. So we don't need to enter anything other than the digits of the number at this point. Alright, so the first number we need to enter is going to be in cell B4. So you're going to click on cell B4 to make it active. You're going to type in 12,000. Again, no commas, no dollar signs. Alright, then you're going to press tab. Now, you'll notice that you'll need to look again in table 1-1 to see what the remaining numbers are for that commission row, row 4 in your worksheet. Alright, so the next one is 12,000 as well. Then you'll press tab or use the right arrow key. And then for March commission, it's 14,000. And then you'll move to April, and that one's also 14,000. And then May is 16,000. June is 20,000. July it is... Wait a minute, I made a mistake. June should actually be 18,500. Sorry about that. June should be 18,500, and then July should be 20,000. Alright? And again, you'll probably make mistakes like that, just like I did, as you go through and enter the numbers. It's real easy to make those mistakes, but you always have to kind of constantly check your work and make sure you're entering the numbers correctly. If you notice a mistake, correct it, just like we did with the title at the top of the worksheet. Alright, so August should be 18,500. September should be 18,500. And October should be 14,000. November should be 14,000. And December is 16,500. Alright, once you get that done, you're going to click on cell B5 and type in the interest numbers in column or in row 5. So you're going to type in 100. Now, you'll notice that all of the numbers throughout the months of the year are the same for the interest in row 5. And anytime you have the numbers that are the same all the way across the worksheet, you can use the fill handle to copy across. So once you get the 100 entered into cell B5, just click the enter button up on the formula bar to finalize that entry. And then you're going to point to the fill handle down here and drag across through column M. Alright, and it will just copy that 100 all the way through December of that year. Okay, all the way through the months of the year. Alright, and now we are ready to enter the first expense down here in the bottom of the worksheet. So we're going to click on cell B9. And again, we're going to look at table 1-1 in our book to make sure we're typing the correct numbers. So the rent value for January should be $1,500. So you're going to type that in to cell B9. And then you're going to click the Enter button to finalize that entry. You'll notice that the rent expense is the same throughout the year for every month of the year. So we can use that same method that we used by using the fill handle. We can copy that across. Alright? And like I said, if you feel more comfortable just typing each one of them in separately, go ahead and do that. You can do that, obviously, but it's just much faster to use the fill handle when you can. Alright? Then we're going to go down to Utilities, which is cell B10. And we're going to type in the value that's shown there, which is $325. We're going to click the Enter button up on the formula bar to finalize the entry. And that value is also the same throughout the year. So we can use that same fill handle, same method to copy that across through December of that year, which will be through column M. Alright, then we're going to go down to Advertising, which is cell B11. And type in the value for that, which is $400. We're going to click the Enter button to finalize that entry. And that one is also the same throughout the year. So we can use that same fill handle and drag it across through column M. Alright, the main thing you have to remember when you're using the fill handle is you have to type in the entry into the particular cell that you want to copy first and finalize that entry, and make sure that that cell that you want to copy the contents of is selected before you use the fill handle to drag across. Alright, so we've got advertising in, and then the next thing is website expense. So that will be cell B12. And now you have to be careful with this one because you might at first glance think it's 0 all the way across, and it is 0 for most of the months, but it is not 0 for July. Alright, so we're going to have to be careful with this one. We can't use, we actually could use the fill handle for some of it. In fact, let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll just edit that one cell. Alright, so we're going to type 0 into cell B12 and click the Enter button, and then we're going to use the fill handle to drag across through column M. Alright, but with this one we're going to have to be careful and go back and edit the one that is different, which is July. So we're going to click on July and actually double click on cell H12, which is the July website expense. And then when you double click on a cell, it opens up edit mode in the cell, and then you can just type in what you need to type in for that cell. So type in 500 into cell H12, and then we're going to go down to cell B13, which is the printing expense, and we're going to type in 200 there. And we're going to click the Enter button up on the formula bar to finalize the entry. And we're going to, and this one is the same throughout the year. So we're going to use that same fill handle to copy across through column M. Alright, the next expense that we need to type in is office supplies. And this one is different throughout the year, so we're just going to need to type these in separately. Alright, so in the first month, January, office supply expense is 200. So you're going to type 200 into cell B14. And then you're going to press Tab. And then the next one, February, is going to be 0. And then March is 0. April is 200 again. And then May is 0. June is 0. July is 200. August is 0. September is 0. October is 200, November is 0, and December is 0. So it looks like we're paying for our office supplies quarterly, basically 4 times a year. Okay? Alright, then we're going to click on the cell B15 to enter the gas expense for January, which is $100. So we're going to type in 100 into cell B15. Then we're going to click the enter button to finalize that entry. Now, the gas expense throughout the year is $100. And so, since it's the same throughout the year, we can use the fill handle to copy it across through column M. Alright, then we're going to click on cell B16. And the last expense that we need to type in is miscellaneous. And that one is $250. So we're going to type 250 into cell B16 and then click the enter button to finalize it. And then, since it's the same throughout the year, we're going to use the fill handle and drag all the way across through column M. Alright, once you have all that done, just click on an empty cell just to deselect that text that we just, the number that we just copied over. And so basically we have now got all the numbers entered in our worksheet. This would be a good time to double check all of your numbers to make sure they're all correct. Alright, just kind of double check everything. And because obviously in a worksheet like this, where we're going to make calculations based on the numbers, the accuracy of the numbers is extremely important. Alright, and we'll actually find out here in a few minutes if we have any errors when we do our totals and other calculations of our worksheet. Alright, but just kind of look it over and make sure everything's correct. Alright, our next step is on page 1-20. We need to click on cell B6, which is basically where we want to get the total for the January income. Okay, the total January income. And so in Microsoft Excel, there's a special tool that allows us to very quickly get a total in our worksheet. It's called the autosum button. Alright, it's on the editing group of the home tab. Alright, so make sure that cell B6 is the active cell, and then you're going to click on the autosum button on the right side of the home tab. You'll notice when you click on autosum, you'll see a little moving border called a marquee around the proposed range that Excel proposes that we want to include in the total. Alright, and just kind of make sure that that is correct. And then once you make sure it's correct, you're going to click the enter button up on the formula bar. Okay, and you should end up with a value of 12,100, which you can easily see that that would be the correct total because we're basically taking 12,000 commission and adding 100 in interest to get the 12,100 value for the total for January income. Alright, and then what we're going to do is click on cell B17, and the same method, we're going to click on cell B17, and the same method that we used to get the total in cell B16, we're going to also use the same method to get the total in cell B17. Alright, so just make sure that cell B17 is the active cell. Click on the auto sum button, and then you're going to click the enter button. Alright, up on the formula bar. And just kind of verify that that's the correct number. It shows the correct values there in the picture there on page 1-21 in your book. So just verify that you got the correct total in both cell B6 and B17. Alright. Now, in addition to using the fill handle to copy sequences like the months that we did earlier, and also just the numerical data, you can also use the fill handle to copy formulas and functions. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click on cell B6 because that has the total value in it for the January income that we used the auto sum button to calculate earlier. So we're going to make sure that cell B6 is the active cell. Anytime you're copying formulas or functions, you always want to make sure that the cell that has the formula or function already in it is selected first. Okay, so you're going to select what's called the copy area first, and then you're going to it's also called the source, and then you're going to point to the fill handle and drag the fill handle all the way through column M. Alright, and what it does is it just copies all of those that sum function to get the total for each of the remaining months of the year, all the way through December. Okay, so just kind of check those totals and make sure they're correct. Alright, once you have that done, you're going to click on cell B17. We're going to do the same thing to copy the totals over for the expenses. So we're going to click on cell B17 because that's the cell that we entered the sum function in by using the auto sum button to get the total. And then once we make sure that cell B17 is active, we're going to point to the fill handle and drag across through column M. And it just gives us, basically pastes in all those totals for the remainder of the months of the year. And just check all those totals and make sure they're correct. Alright, once we've got that done, we're going to now, we've got our column totals in, but we still need to do our row totals. We're going to do our row totals a little bit differently. Alright, we're going to do several at one time. Instead of doing one and then copying with the fill handle, another method that you can use is you can do several at one time. So we're going to click on cell N4, and then we're going to, we're not using the fill handle at this point, we're just moving our mouse pointer inside the cell, inside cell N4, which is the active cell, till the mouse pointer is in the shape of a block plus sign, and then we're going to drag down through cell N6, alright, which are the row totals that we need to get for income. Alright, and once we have N4 through N6 selected, we're going to click the auto sum button on the right side of the home tab. And you'll notice instead of just getting one total, it does all three totals for us at one time. So that's just another method when you want to get several totals or calculations in cells that are adjacent to each other. You can actually just drag through those cells and then click on auto sum or enter whatever other function or formula you need to add there, and it will do all those calculations at one time. Alright, then we're going to go and click on cell N9, and we're going to drag from cell N9. Again, we're not using the fill handle right now, we're just pointing to the middle of the active cell, cell N9, and where the mouse pointer is in the shape of a block plus sign. We're dragging down through cell N17. Alright, and so now N9 through N17 should be selected, and then we're going to click on the auto sum button to get all those totals at one time. Alright, and the first thing that we want to check once we've got all of our totals entered is check the grand total in cell N17 and also in cell N6. Check those totals for the income portion of the worksheet at the top and the expenses portion of the worksheet at the bottom. Chances are, if those grand totals are correct, then probably the rest of your numbers and calculations are correct as well. Not always, but in most cases they will be. So check those numbers. Of course, you want to check all your calculated values, but especially check those two. Alright? Now, if you notice a mistake, if you notice that your totals are not correct, then it can be one of two things. Either some of the numbers in that row or column of the total that's incorrect is incorrect, and you need to go back and fix those numbers that are incorrect. Or it could be that you inserted the wrong function or formula. Okay, and so in our case, since we were just using the autosum button, probably if you have an incorrect number, an incorrect total, it's because one of the numbers that's referenced in that particular total is incorrect. In other words, for example, if I had an error in cell N13, if my number there was not 2400, if it was, let's say, 2200, then I would know that there's an incorrect value in that row, in that printing row, row 13. Okay? And I would need to go back and double click on that cell that's incorrect and type in the correct value and complete the entry in the cell by clicking the enter box or enter button, and then it would recalculate the totals there, and then just recheck the totals and do that until you get everything correct. All right, and that's one of the important tools or advantages in using functions and formulas in Excel, is that when you go back and make changes to the numbers that are referenced in the formulas and functions, it automatically recalculates all of your totals and other calculations for you. Alright, so next thing we need to do on page 1-26 is we need to enter the formula to get the net value in cell B19. So we're going to click on cell B19 to make it the active cell, and we're going to type in the formula that's shown on step 1 on page 1-26. So we're going to type in an equal sign, and by the way, every formula and function starts with the equal sign. When we used the auto sum button earlier, it automatically inserted the equal sign and the actual sum function for us. But in some cases, we're going to have to actually type in the formula ourselves if there's not a built-in formula or function to meet our needs. And so in this case, to get the net value, it's going to be, we're going to start with the equal sign, typed into cell B19, and then we're going to type in the cell reference for the first cell in our calculation, which is B6. So we're going to type in B6, and then we're going to type in the arithmetic operator in this case, which is the minus sign. Alright, and then we're going to type in the last cell reference in our formula, which is cell B17. So in cell B19, we should have the formula. The formula should read equal sign B6 minus B17. All right, so equal sign B6 minus B17. All right, and if you look at your cells in your worksheet, you'll notice when we type in a cell reference in the formula, it will kind of shade those cells that are referenced in the formula. So you'll notice that cell B6 is shaded, and cell B17 is shaded. And they're shaded different colors, and those colors are the corresponding colors of the cell references in the formula. All right, and that just kind of helps us to verify that we've got the correct cells referenced in the formula. All right, once you get that done, once you make sure that that formula is correct, you're going to click on the enter button up on the formula bar, and it'll give us that value, which should be 9125. And then we're going to make sure that cell B19 is still selected, and we're going to use the fill handle to copy that all the way across through column N. Alright? And just check all those net values. You might want to click on an empty cell so you can kind of deselect that range so you can check all your numbers. Again, probably the most important number to check would be that very last number in cell N19. Alright? Because chances are, if it's correct, then probably the rest of your numbers are probably also correct. Alright, and that total, or that net value in cell N19 should be 154,600. Alright, so once we've done that, we're going to save this workbook, and it tells you what to save it as, and on page EX 128 and 129 in your book. So we're going to click on the Save button on the Quick Access toolbar. We're going to click on Browse. And on step 4 on page 129, it shows in bold there what we want to save this as. So we're going to save it as Frangold Real Estate Budget. Okay, once we have the file name typed in, we're going to use the upper part of the Save As dialog box, the upper pane, to navigate where we want to save it. And of course, you'll save yours the same place you've saved your other work for this class. Alright, and once you navigate to the correct folder where you want to save it, you're going to click the Save button on the in the Save dialog box. And that concludes this video. In the next video, I will take you through formatting the worksheet and creating the chart and moving the chart to a separate worksheet. Alright, so I will see you in the next video. Thank you.